You're listening to Remotely We Are One, a podcast to help inspire others to take their lives back from the office commute. I'm Rick, a passionate beer rep who loves the industry but hates the commute.
And I'm Kaleem, a remote work advocate and consultant. We're going to speak with some of the top professionals who have managed to avoid the commute as they share stories from the most inspiring to the most comical, all while working remotely.
Man, this sounds exciting. Let's clock in.
So Anebi Agbo here. I'm from Phoenix. I'm the founder and CEO of Eikon Labs, a web design and product innovation studio. Coming in here live from the Release Summit in DC.
Shout out, baby! Release!
That's what the man said! I'm Rick. I'm here in the Washington, D.C. for the Relead Summit. We are here talking about remote work. Thanks for joining us, Anebi. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, bro. I appreciate it. Oh, let me get back. Boom! All right, there it is.
So we are, as mentioned, talking about remote work. With the rise of that we've all been seeing lately of remote work, how are companies winning in their strategy to build high-performance teams?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Many companies are so entrenched in the idea of to build a really solid, cohesive, high-performance team. It has to be done in person.
Sure.
But with the shift, increasingly so, to remote work, I think companies are trying to figure out ways to still build a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that I have seen is, you just got to dial in your mission and vision, right? Your folks, employees need to know why they're doing what they do and how does that connect into the larger mission of the company. So that's a big way. A big part of that too is setting clear OKRs, objectives and key results. Many companies just fly by the seat of their pants and figure things out, but it's like you got to dial that in and make it super clear into measurable chunks. And as an employee, I want to know that the work I'm doing boils up into the overall mission or the objectives of the company. So if our objective for Q1, right, if our goal for Q1 is to increase revenue by 20%, how does my day-to-day work help us make 20% more? And that's what I mean by objectives and key results. It has to tie in somehow. Now, another way to build a high-performance team is cohesion among the folks working on that company. It's with people being distributed and being all around the world, it definitely poses a challenge because you don't have the water cooler conversations anymore. You don't pass someone by the hallway. So how do you, help folks connect? And one of the ways is putting virtual events together using tools that we have. I was talking earlier about, if you use Slack or some other tool, one way you can do that is using like a bot. I use a bot to help employees connect. So you can set different cadences. For mine, like once every 2 weeks, it connects 2 or 3 folks for one-on-one. These are 2 people in different departments that would not necessarily have connected. But now they get to connect and they get to learn more about each other and the work they're doing and how that supports the company. Cohesion right there. So those are some ways I would say companies can build high-performance teams. A third thing I would say is helping your employees be able to measure their work and the impact of their work. Okay. Right. If you're an agile shop or similar, we talk about like burn down charts and other ways to help your team. Like, how does what I did yesterday, like, did I move forward today? Am I just working hard and not really moving the needle? Or am I working hard and it's actually, moving the needle? So those are some things I can think about with building a high-performance team.
I got a question, kind of a follow-up to that. So you started your company and your company was fully remote from day one.
Yeah.
Do you remember any mistakes you made?
Oh boy.
That you're like, geez, that's not really... I made a big mistake and that really impacted our team becoming a high performing team. Do you remember any mistakes or do you know of some common mistakes maybe that are happening that maybe some of our viewers and listeners can take away with?
Yeah, the vision thing and the OKR thing is huge. And that's a mistake I made really early on where
What do you mean the vision thing?
yeah, so casting the vision for the team for it's not just a transactional, I pay you, you get work done, goodbye, right? Folks have to feel invested in the mission. And earlier on, and it's still a very common mistake, not cluing my folks into why we're doing what we're doing, right? Why are we taking on these 4 projects? Is it just to make money? Which is fine. It's not bad to make money. I'm not running a philanthropy.
Right.
But it's, constantly reminding or having it at least in a central place for why your company exists, right? And then also, if you boil it down a little more, the why behind the projects we're taking on. And also, if you boil it down a little bit more, keeping everyone in sync for the health of the company, for where we're at. Mm-hmm. That is something earlier on where it was just, I was doing this leadership thing, growing this company. Like, hey, we're working on these projects. I check in with the folks who are actively on projects, but it's like I didn't spend as much time casting the vision and, painting a picture, peeling back the layers and saying, this is where we're at. And then it was so easy. I had contractors join for a while and then move on to other opportunities. I'm like, man, why do we lose folks? And that was one of the feedback I got. People didn't feel like they didn't see themselves, right, as part of the company. They felt like mercenaries. Yeah. Right? I mean, they got the job done, but they didn't feel like they were part of a collective, part of a greater thing beyond just their individual contribution.
Well, you're raising some really valid points, which kind of leads into the next question I had for you is, with all this emphasis on measuring productivity, how do you deal with people that sometimes might take it too far and they become burned out and the team just becomes emotionally strained?
Ooh, that's a deep one.
Yeah.
We're going to track your keystrokes.
Yeah.
We're going to track your keystrokes, son. Are you working?
I'm watching.
Are you sitting on your computer? And yeah, that's, with productivity, right? It's something I struggle with because I tend to be a workaholic.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your own company, right? It's like your baby. You're working all the time. People crack the joke about, do I live at work or do I work at home? It just blends in. You're always working and you can get burnt out super fast. I've been there. Yeah. I'm recovering still. And, how do we put things in place so people feel equipped to take the time that they need to have a healthy work-life balance? Austin Belkak on LinkedIn calls it, he's like, let's stop calling it work-life balance, but life-work balance. Right? And putting those systems in place. For me, it's making sure folks take time off that they need. Yeah. We don't need to wait for you to burn out before we're like, oh crap, we got to fix the burnout issue. It's like even before that.
Let's schedule that now. When do you plan to take vacation?
Yeah, absolutely. Preempting that burnout.
Preventative maintenance is what we
absolutely.
Call it.
Yeah. We don't want to wait for that.
Exactly.
Oh, the engine broke. We got to fix it. You got to do the oil changes.
Absolutely.
Right. And all of that stuff. So for me,
everyone, needs a good oil change.
Absolutely. You got to change that oil. 6,000 miles if it's synthetic.
But if you run out of gas, it doesn't matter.
Oil change, maintenance. So those are some things that say time off, making sure. Sometimes you have clients that want a lot, right? I've had contractors who they were like hauling aid, to get work done for a couple of weeks. I'm like, this has been a couple of weeks of work, 50-hour plus work weeks. You should take some time off, cool off period before the next project. Building things like that into your company, I think, go a long way to preempt burnout and do the maintenance before burnout even occurs. Because then it's a lot more painful to get out of.
Absolutely.
So that's something that instinctively comes to mind when I think about burnout. But that's huge. A lot of folks are struggling with that right now.
Yeah, my goodness. Glad I asked. So, with regard to what we've talked about, what have you learned today from the session regarding the topic that we've been discussing? Was it discussed at all?
Yes, quite a bit, actually. And it's been very eye-opening because there's even the legal perspective, like that many folks don't even, I'm like, I don't have to think about that really. I work with, teams that handle that stuff, but there's a lot of ramifications with remote work, with building high performance teams, with using employers of records. There's all of this stuff that goes into it. But one key thing that I'm most excited about, and that gets me thinking, is it's a new frontier for a lot of folks, but remote work also has been here for a long time, right? So for me, that's a bit of a paradigm shift. Oh, it's all brand new. Yes, for a lot of folks, but also we have the playbook for how remote work has been done for a while from companies that have done it successfully for decades, really. And for me, that's where I want to look. I'm like, how did they do remote work in the 80s before there was Slack and all the modalities we have now? Like, so I'm very excited about that. I'm very intrigued by that. And then also beginning to see that remote work is a series of concentric circles. There's the remote work itself, but there's so much that goes into that, right? There's there's performance, there's burnout, work-life balance. How do you prevent that? And then there's, help making sure your folks have other areas of their lives taken care of, intimate relationships, social connections within work, outside of work. So it's like, you just keep going. Yeah. So for me, just like so much here.
I've learned a ton. Like that. I think that for me, that's one thing that I've taken from the summit is like hearing from your perspective, like what's it like out there in Phoenix? What's going on out there? And everybody just has a different expertise. And again, hearing from Tara about the legal aspects, hearing from, Shelby about the perks. It's just been a very, you're right, mind blowing, man. Yeah. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's an interesting factoid about yourself that a lot of people might not know?
This is juicy. Get juicy. The most embarrassing, maybe. Something real bad.
I'm just going to talk about the most exciting thing right now for me. We have a daughter, my wife and I, as of a month, 7 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. And you came out here to see us.
Yeah, it was hard.
Oh, it was
hard. But that does change. And some of my thought process now, thinking about burnout and sustainability of that, like after having a kid now, you just start thinking differently about things. Right? I did what Austin Belkak said about life-work balance. This is work-life balance. It's a subtle shift, but just getting to think about, what fills your tank. I want to spend time with my wife and daughter, and I'm thinking through that. So that's the most exciting, juicy thing in my life right now.
No, that's great.
That's the best thing you can offer. Family always comes first.
Yeah, and one thing that I've heard you say this a bunch of times, and I've just been trying to make this thing catch on. I think work-life balance has it's sometimes a little unattainable, and it's almost like we're too hard on ourselves, right? And now that you have a little one, we use work-life integration because let me tell you, the nap times, you remember this, Rick, the nap times, you're on a schedule of every few hours.
Absolutely.
You got to fit in your work during the nap time.
Yeah.
So that's not balance. That's integrating throughout the day. So just don't be too hard on yourself, man. Okay. It's okay to work in the nap times, because guess what? When the little one's on your chest and warm and you fall asleep, it's working. So don't be too hard on yourself, man. Yeah. And I really appreciate you being with us. And can you tell the listeners and the viewers, where can they find you online?
I'm a LinkedIn nerd, man.
Yes.
Like it's LinkedIn,
Shawty?
and then LinkedIn. I do have a website, ane.bi. That was an interesting domain name to get. You can ask me how I got that. But mostly LinkedIn. I do a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, and it's the platform I will be focusing on for social media. So, Anebi Agbo on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Hey, next time, come see us anytime.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotelyone.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.